How's it going, everybody? We got some crazy stuff going on. Chat, pretend that this is happening on Thursday, okay? Pretend that day one, like the major is done, you know? Like imagine like, oh my god, it's day one. Crazy matches. Endpoint in V1 went to a crazy double reverse sweep, even though it's not. Oh my god, what happened? Like wow, guys, day one of RLCS was absolutely insane. And the crazy thing about that is that no one's been eliminated yet. And because of that, there's still a lot of stuff on the line. This is going to come out obviously Thursday morning before the matches and the eliminations start to happen for the spring major. And because of that, there is a lot of circumstances that apply. In today's video, we're actually going to break those things down. We're going to talk about every single region, what happens if people win or if they lose, who can get in, basically the world championship scenarios, who's going to get into the wild card, who's going to get into the group stage, and simplistically how and what happens when teams beat other people. On the other side of things, we always have to say thank you to him. Direct RLCS statistician has made a little cheat sheet that will be in the description down below to tell you the details. But before we get into that, we have to talk about what exactly is happening at the World Championship. As a quick little insight, there is a thing to break down for the World Championship. For those that do not know, the World Championship is going to be 2 weeks. Starts officially on August 3rd. And we'll go for like a week and a half plus. The first part of that is the wild card stage. It is teams that are ranked 9 to 24 in the world competing together. And then whoever is the top 8 out of that, after they whittle those teams out, will then join the group stage. And that will be your teams that are 8 guaranteed and 8 that have qualified, giving us our top 16. Now, what makes these wild card scenarios very difficult is they flex, they change based upon how teams do in the international majors. In every single split, fall, winter, and spring, there is 3 regionals, and based upon how you do in those regionals, allow you to get to an international major. And based upon not only you, but also how your entire region performs, allocates how many spots you get into the World Championship. So the big ones to pay attention to are your top 8. Your top 8 spots fluctuate based upon how your entire region performs. And that's kind of what this breaks down. EU has the number 1 because they have taken first and second, while NA has taken second and first. Technically, the points are tied, and NA is technically number 1 because of most recent results based upon tiebreakers. But based upon how the best team in North America plays and based upon how the best team in Europe plays, will determine who gets the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed overall at the World Championship. But the crazy thing is you look at some of these, South America and EU are tied right now. South America's number 1 seed and EU's number 4 seed. So like, say all of Europe plays really, really well at the upcoming spring major, there's a chance that Europe gets 4 teams automatically invited instead of only 3. And because of that, that means that 7 teams out of Europe will get to go to the World Championship instead of 6. And hopefully that makes sense, but that's where it kind of gets confusing, is based upon the results, there's chances for a team like Falcons, for MENA, to jump up and get an automatic spot in the top 8 group stage rather than having to go through wildcard. And because of the way that spots are allocated, there is guaranteed spots in that 9 to 24 area. North America automatically gets 3, Europe automatically gets 3, so on and so forth as it details. And the only time that there is a chance for more teams to make in is if their regions perform well in the majors. So that stuff is really important. There's a lot of different circumstances, and it's going to be kind of complicated. So if you guys do have questions, 2 ways you can do it. Either leave a comment on this video, and I'll try to answer and respond to them, or stop by the stream where we're hanging out, twitch.tv/Lawler, every day but Tuesday and Sunday. After spring major, I'm sure I'll be answering a lot of these questions anyway, so hopefully we can help out with that. Plus, things will get locked in. We'll be able to break them down specifically. But in case you don't know, there are some teams that have automatically guaranteed their spots already, but we're going to jump into the specific scenarios. We're going to go from the minor regions to the major regions just because they're way easier, simply due to the way this works. This document that I'm showing right now will be in the description down below. There is a bunch of numbers and stats and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to do those. We're going to simplify them. We're going to go to each individual region because it makes it way easier. So first up, we've got APAC North. APAC North, as you guys know, Tokyo Verdy has been performing very, very well, but Detonator has also played some upset recently. Tokyo Verdy has guaranteed themselves a spot and is clinched as the number 1 team in APAC North over the course of all these events. Now, if APAC performs very, very well for whatever reason, there is still a chance that they then get a second option or that other wildcard spot. And this is kind of this part that I'm talking about. Say the APAC team goes sicko mode and they perform really, really well at the next event. There's a chance that they could allocate and earn another wildcard spot. So Tokyo Verdy's into the wildcard. They will be one of the teams competing in the wildcard stage. But for Detonator, who is second in the standings, if APAC North does not get a main event spot, they are out. That same kind of thing applies then to APAC South. We are seeing for the first time an APAC South team going to the international event, to the major. Gaming Gladiators, congratulations to them. Super mechanical team have made it, which is really, really cool. They are also a team that has won everything but one event where they took second. They are basically like MENA's Falcons, but they took second once instead of first all 9 times. Still very impressive, very mechanical team. They have locked in a spot in the wild card. Now, if Gaming Gladiators goes and does what APAC has never done, which is win a series and start performing better, then there is a chance that they can unlock another spot for their region, which would then go to 1620 Kings, who are in second. But it all depends on performance of APAC. Up next, we're going to talk about MENA. Obviously, Falcons has done some very impressive things. They have clinched #1 in MENA. They will, without a doubt, be there. Without a doubt, they will be there. Now, the cool thing about MENA as a region with their spot allocation is MENA, they get 2 seeds instead of 1 like APAC. So APAC North and South both get 1. That's why that option is still up for grabs. So if their team performs really well, they can still get the other one in. But for MENA, they get 2. So Falcons and Veloce, the second team in the standings, have already done well. They're there. They're guaranteed spots. But because Falcons is still in the running, and because they did show up and are in London, it has been confirmed Falcons will be playing at the Spring Major. I'm so happy. But because Falcons are there, if Falcons has a really, really solid performance, which I think that potential is there, without a doubt, I think Falcons has the ability to, instead of being here, jump up spots and secure a spot into the group stage. I think that is a potential, without a doubt. If, say, Falcons has a good result, they place like top 6 or something to that extent, like there's a potential that if they, because we're in the future, this is totally Thursday, say they keep doing what they're doing. I mean, knocking on wood, not trying to jinx them in the past. But if they keep performing well and they get enough point allocation to give themselves the top 8, that means they still have 2 wildcard spots available, which would then allow 0-1 to get in, which I am hoping for, because 0-1 is very good. So if Falcons does and continues to do well, and they make top spots, they get allocated as a top 8, that means that they've guaranteed main, and they still have 2 wildcard spots available, which then gives a chance to 0-1. So 0-1 really, really needs Falcons to do well. They have to perform quite well, which means taking 3rd or better. Falcons needs to place top 3. That's what they're hoping for. It's a tall order. It's a tough task, but it is possible. They just went 0-2. Remember, it's Thursday. It's literally impossible to go 0-2 on Thursday, man. Thursday, like, there hasn't been elimination matches yet. Anyway, so Falcons can make top 3. If they can make top 3, that means they clinch a main event spot, which would then open it up for both these teams, which is pretty cool. So 0-1 Esports is the biggest Falcons fans you've ever seen right now. Pretty crazy stuff. Up next, we've got OCE, SAM, and SSA. We're going to start on SSA. SSA is in a unique spot because they can't change their results. They don't get invited to the majors. They can only play in the wild card. So we have our 2 SSA teams. It's Orlando Pirates and Bravado. We have received confirmation. Visa stuff, they did go to Namibia. Things were approved. They're good. If you guys didn't see that video, make sure you go check that out. But Visa stuff has all been sorted from, it looks like, for Orlando Pirates. They're A-okay. They should be fine. So that's cool. Good to get confirmation there. But SSA's representations will be Orlando Pirates and Bravado. So love to see that. Up next, South America. Pretty cool stuff. There's still 4 teams in the running. And it gets a little bit more complicated with some of these other regions because there's more spots allocated and everything else. Right now, Furia and Secret are guaranteed wildcard spots. But if Furia performs really well, another top 6, all that kind of stuff. And the specifics is Furia needs top 4. If Furia makes top 4, they guarantee a spot in the main event. And that would then allow other teams to get in. But the #1 team in South America clinches if they finish 9th or 12th or better and Team Secret finish second or worse. And the reason why that's really important is based upon the differences. So like for Furia right now, Furia has a big point margin, but if they end up doing really well, they kind of leapfrog to the standings, because I talked about like the point differential and stuff here. Sam right now is 8, which is really big. They need to maintain that. They need to guarantee themselves still a main event spot, which is what's really important. They need to find a way to make sure they can continue to hold on to a group spot, but they're going to compete against the EU4. OCE 1 is in that area. MENA is in that area. So Sam does need to outweigh some people. Sam does need some results to outweigh, which is really important. Team Secret, on the other hand, is kind of out of the running, I would say, because Sam 2 doesn't really have the results that you're looking for. They, to my knowledge, in winter, I don't know if they had any upsets. I don't think so. I think it was Kansas City Pioneers from OCE that got the nod because MENA wasn't there. So that stuff kind of changes it up. So for Furia, this is what they need for number 1 in Sam. It's not guaranteed yet. They just need Team Secret to perform worse than them, pretty much. If Team Secret starts getting top 8, top 6, then their point allocation can potentially leapfrog that like 500 point difference. So it is possible. As for Team Secret, who is right now in second, the cool thing about Team Secret is they are also in attendance, so they have the ability to control their own fate if the performance is there. They have clinched a wild card no matter what. The guaranteed 160 points puts them ahead. Smile. But if they outperform Furia, so they need to take first place, and Furia needs to finish at the very last spot. Tough order. So they need basically the opposites to happen. They need to pop the heck off, take first, and then they need Furia to take last. It's not easy. So that is if they want to overtake Furia. Very tough. On the other side of things, for the club, which is the 3rd place team right now, who's been playing really well, 2 second places and a 4th place finish. Should be very happy with that. For them, they are eliminated if there's only 2 teams at Worlds. And the way that determines is the wildcard spots. South America gets 2 wildcard spots. So they need Sam 1 to still perform well. So assuming Furia is the team, because they have the highest point total, if Furia again places very well and keeps a top 8 main event spot, that means that OCE will get 2, or not OCE, Sam will get 2 wildcard spots, which would then say, hey, you're guaranteed for main event. You 2 get in. Welcome, club. Welcome. And then for Crew is technically still in the running, but say South America takes like the 1-2 spot. Say South America is like, yep, we're the best teams in the world. We take 1st and 2nd, see you in the grand finals. That's enough to bump them up, and then Crew can also make it in, because then these 2 will get allocated. Probably not going to happen, but there is potential. There is potential. So it's not out of the running. Statistically, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. But the club is just hoping that one of the SAM teams has like crazy results so they can get 2 points allocated. That's basically what they're looking for. Over to OCE. OCE is pretty bonkers. If you are a Renegades fan, hold on to your butts. So if you notice those points are very close. The difference and the major thing to pay attention to, though, is because Power and Pioneers are already going, they get a guaranteed 160 points. So the way this works is Renegades has a little bit of a buffer. If they get bypassed by Power, not a big deal. Still top 2, still a chance to go to Worlds. If Power and Pioneers also perform well, there is a chance that if they get 1 win, it's not enough. 1 win will bump them to 260 points, which is 100 points. They are still off by 11. If they get 2 wins, that'll bump them above Renegades, and then they would need Power to lose and go 0-2. If Power wins 1 series and Pioneers wins 2 series, Renegades is out of World Championship, and Power and Pioneers go to the World Championship as the wild card. Pretty crazy stuff. So Renegades, you either hope OCE smacks and does like 1-2 and does really, really well, or you hope your comrades shit the bed, if I'm being 100%. For specifics, Renegades clinches with wild card if, and this is an or statement, one or the other can happen. Pioneers finishes with only 1 win, or Power does not win at all. If Power goes 0-2, Renegades is fine. Or if Pioneers only wins 1 series, they are fine. Power clinches is if they get 2 wins, or Pioneers goes 0-2. Pioneers gets in if they finish top 8. If they win 2 series, they're good. Because that means they will leapfrog Renegades no matter what. It does not matter what happens. It is, if I'm CJ and the boys at home, I am hoping my teams, my OCE brethren, shit the bed. Also, I said August 3rd earlier. It is August 4th. My apologies. So, that's wild. Now, as for Kaka's minions, technically still in the running, they need 1 team to secure main event. No, they need 2. They need 2 main event spots. Or no, OC gets allocated 2 spots, right? Too many numbers, chat. I apologize. OC gets 2 seats. So, they need eliminated if there's 2 OC at Worlds. They're eliminated if there's 4 OC at Worlds. Or 3 OC at Worlds. This is wrong, I think. I think D-Rec typed this wrong. Because they have to secure main event and then get 2 wildcard spots. This should be 3. I think D-Rec typed this wrong. Either way, this isn't worded right, unless my brain's being backwards. But to summarize for people watching, OCE needs 2 teams to make the main event. They need 2 teams. They need OCE 2 to jump and leapfrog all of these teams to get enough points to allocate here. And then they also need OCE 1 to also bump up. So they need some results. They need some help. Because if they don't, then there is not enough allocation for 2 wildcard spots, which they need. There's got to be 4 OCE representatives in order for Kaka's minions to make it, which seems unlikely. It's going to be very tough. Now, for the main events, you've got North America and Europe. Chat, which would you like first? Europe or North America? Europe is pretty crazy. K-Corp's got some scenarios. North America is pretty straightforward, but EU first it is. Alphabetical order. I'm okay with it. All right, for Europe, 4 teams automatically guaranteed. BDS, Moist, Endpoint, and Dignitas. Dignitas has got a really fun scenario as well. So, 4 teams already guaranteed, no matter what. BDS, Moist, Endpoint, Dig. They've got guaranteed points. They're fine. Now, on the other side of things, Luminosity and Misfits have been eliminated. There is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's still 5 teams in the running. Ironically enough, Team Liquid is one of them. Team Liquid could still make Worlds. It's kind of stupid. All right. So, here we go. Let's discuss these in order from easiest to most difficult. There's a lot for Europe. There's still a lot of teams with chances here. Number 1, for BDS. BDS can clinch number 1 in Europe if they finish top 8, which I think is very likely. I think the chances of them going 2-2, pretty realistic. I could see that. So BDS does have a chance to take number 1 in Europe. So either they place 7th or 8th, or if Liquid finishes outside of top 2. So if they finish Moist at 3rd place or worse, BDS still has enough points to make up the difference. Now they can finish main event spot with EU number 2 clinches main event spot, or any European team except Moist wins the series. They're going to the main event. Unless, for whatever reason, EU is just like, let's all go 0-2. BDS will be at the main event. They are a top 8 team in the world. I think we're okay there. So they should be fine. This sentence makes me chuckle a little bit. They just need a team from Europe to win a game. That's not Moist. So, should be fine. As for Moist, Moist is right now number 2 in the standings. Moist can clinch at least number 2 in Europe, which is a main event, top 8, if they finish top 6 or better. Or Endpoint finish 4th or worse, because they don't want any teams below them to leapfrog them. They also clinch main event spot with top 2 or better, because then it doesn't matter tiebreakers, stuff like that. It doesn't matter if BDS leapfrogs them or anything. Like, they will be fine. So they can finish 2nd or better, or if they finish top 6 or better, and European number 2 clinches main event spot, or EU number 3 clinches main event spot. What this is breaking down to is these things, right? It's hard to give an exact answer on a team because it is determining if Europe's 3rd worst team or 2nd worst team does a certain performance. That means that they're going to get enough points to stay in the top 8 running. Like, they can't get passed up by like OCE 1 or MENA or anything like that. So that is the importance for that. So if you're Moist, if you're 2nd or better, you're good. Problem solved. But if you finish top 6, which is what you're aiming for, and then you need a little bit of help from the 2nd team in Europe. Like, if they're the 1st best team, if they're the 2nd best team, then it's a different story. So it just depends on the other results of their region's results. Depends on how the other EU teams do. As for Endpoint, they've clinched at least 3rd. They can't get worse than third. Point allocation, because Dignitas isn't there. They're locked in. There's too much of a gap between the other teams. If you look at Europe, Dignitas isn't there. Even if they win, it's 801 points. Like, they can't catch up. So, Dignitas, without being there, Endpoint is guaranteed at least top 3. They're good. The chances of Endpoint not making a main event at the World Championship is very unlikely. As long as they don't completely poop the bed. And, like, every other team, like, MENA does really well. OCE1 does really well. All of North America claps. Like, the likelihood that it doesn't happen is so improbable. So, with that said, Endpoint is kind of like, hey, we're third in EU. We can maybe beat out Moist or something, but it's unlikely. They clinch a main event spot as long as EU number 3 does okay. So, as long as the third best team in Europe, no matter who it is, does okay, they're fine. So, Endpoint to make the main event is pretty locked in. They're feeling pretty good about it. Now, for Dignitas, they have clinched a wildcard spot. And this is where it gets interesting. Dignitas is into the wildcard. They will be at the World Championship. The determining factor is, will they be playing in the wildcard in the Swiss stage, coming down then to double elimination for groups, or if they're going to just straight go to groups. And the way that this works is if EU number 4 clinches a spot. And that's where it gets back to this. Right now, EU number 4 is tied in points with SAM number 1. So the 4th best placed team in Europe at the Spring Major has to outperform SAM 1 or try to leapfrog others. They also still need to outperform OCE 1, MENA, things like that. There is a chance that this number 8 spot is highly contested and is going to determine if SAM gets more spots or guaranteed into the major. Determines if, you know, they get extra wildcards and have 3 team representation. It's going to determine if EU has 7 or 6. It's going to, like, there's so many things on the line based upon results of how these play out, which is really, really exciting. So they do have to outperform the competition in front of them. Tiebreaker does go to Sam. You are correct on that, chat. But this is important. 5 points, as long as they have more points as the Sam 1. Like, if EU4 outweighs Sam 1, there's some chances to bump up and down. It's going to come down to the wire. Should be fun. Should be fun. Those 9 to 12 ranked matches, going to be pretty interesting. Okay. As for Semper, they clinch wildcard as long as there is a 3rd European spot. As long as EU has a main event spot, as long as EU3 still stays in this area, then they get another 3 invites. And another 3 invites means, hey, Semper's in. They're good. Up next, they would go to the wild card, but shows that they're in. Up next, we got EG. Very similar in the sense with Semper. They need it if, for whatever reason, say Europe gets so destroyed that only EU1 and EU2 make it. Like, if they get outperformed by MENA and NA 4 and 5 and SAM and OCE and stuff, and they bump out EU3 and EU4 from the conversation of top 8, that means that there will be 2 in the main event and then 3 in the wild card, which is only 5 spots, which would then mean that Evil Geniuses can't make it. So they clinch wild card with a solid number 3 main event and K Corp finishing 13th to 16th. Because you got to understand with K Corp, look at that point difference. Less than 100. So anytime K Corp wins a series, they take the 6th spot. If K Corp wins a game, just one, they become the 6th. Pretty crazy stuff. So if you're Evil Geniuses, you need K Corp to go 0-2. You don't care about anybody else. I mean, unless Liquid wins the whole thing or takes 2nd. But like, other than that, like, if you're EG, your favorite thing is K Corp going 0-2. I don't know, because obviously, like I said, we're in the past. When we're watching this video, you guys are gonna have more insight into this, so you will know if K Corp has overtaken EG or not at this point. I don't know yet, so we will see what will happen. EG's in a pretty tough spot. For K Corp, like I said, they clinch wildcard if they place top 4, or top 8 and EU number 2 clinches a spot, because then they'll get 5 allocated. And if they finish 9th and EU has 3. So the way you're looking at it, right, is this spot guarantees them no matter what. Means they've leapfrogged enough teams. They've beaten out Dignitas, all that kind of stuff. But if they finish top 8, then they need 2 EU, which gives them 5 total. If they finish 9-12, then they need EU3 to be in the main event, because that gives them then 6 total. They would leapfrog EG. They'd be good. So at minimum, K Corp basically needs to win a series. That's what they're hoping for. K Corp needs to win a series, and then they're feeling pretty good. And if EU somehow, EU number 4 clinches the main event spot, say this allocation goes and instead of it being NA4 becomes EU4, well then there's 7 teams and they're happy. If there's 7 teams, then they're in no matter what and they're good. So that's pretty important. Up next, team vitality. Team vitality is where things get wild. The unlikelihood is definitely there, but for vitality, EU has to have 8 teams going. If there is only 7 teams at Worlds, vitality cannot make it. They need 8 teams to go to Worlds. And the only way that is possible is if they have EU 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in here in the top 8. Like if EU takes the top spots in the rankings for Spring Major, it is possible. Like maybe this is EU's regional and they just pop off and you've got Moist, BDS, K Core. Like it's doable, but it's very unlikely that Vitality finds a way in. It's very unlikely. They needed a pretty solid performance at the tail end of Spring and they did not get it. So for specifics, if you guys would like to know, they can go to the wild card if all 5 European teams finish 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, tied 5th, 6th. They need, and this is not they have to have every single team in Europe stack the top side of the bracket. Have to. And it even gets more difficult because in order for that to happen, they still need Liquid in those to not finish top 3 because otherwise Liquid will outperform their points. You need the right teams. Not only do you need your region to pop off, you need the right teams to pop off at the right time. Hey, Liquid, I need you to lower bracket run dominance, but don't do too well. I need you to lose to K-Corp. That'd be great. Thanks. Dude, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Like, they need so much help. They need 2 NA teams to go 0-2. They need OCE to go at best 1 win or worse. They need Furia, Anti-Secret, and Sam to finish at best 1 win. They need Falcons to finish worse than top 8. And they need Gaming Gladiators to finish outside of top 4 or top 3. It's possible. I'm saying there's a chance. But if you guys think that's crazy, let's talk about Team Liquid. So Team Liquid, same situation. They need to finish top 2. If Liquid is not in the grand finals, hope is gone. So for Liquid, have to make the grand finals. Nothing but. You don't make it to the grand finals, does not matter. And then they also need all the other European teams to be in those conversations with them. It's got to be EU 1, 2, 3, 4, tied 5, 6. Has to happen. And then similar situations. They need a lot of help. It's identical to Vitality's. The difference, though, is their results of top 2 is important. What the heck? So it is possible. There is potential for Liquid, but like if Liquid pulls a queso, honestly, young team, no experience on LAN, takes top 2, has to lose to BDS or something like that, or Moist, and then they need a ton of help. And the rest of the bracket's got to be Mickey Moon and stuff's got to implode. Who knows, man? International competition's weird. Double elimination upsets can happen. We'll see. So that is Europe. You guys talk about EU depth. The fact that there's teams like this that are still in the running, pretty crazy stuff. Let's go over to North America where things get a little bit more simple. So for North America, there's still 8 teams in the running. Technically 6 because 2 have already locked in. This one pretty much comes down to Energy, Space Station, V1. Envy potentially still, but those 3 are kind of the ones that we're focused on because there's a chance that V1 and Space Station can bump out Energy of wildcard contention. Let's start with the easy ones. G2. They're in the main event. They've already clinched. They're good. G2 and FaZe are both going. They will be top 8 guaranteed. Those were some of the first ones that we saw qualify. But G2 and FaZe will 1000% be going to the main event. They will be top 8/16. They're good. They're just fighting for seeding at this point. The way that it works out is it's a matter of FaZe outperforming G2 and getting a little bit of help. So G2, if they place top 8, they're first seed. They could also, if they place and only get 1 win, like if G2 goes 1-2 at Worlds or at Spring Major, holy. So that's the case. If they only get 1 win, they need FaZe Clan to finish 2nd or worse. They've got a pretty good margin for lead, and 500 points. So 503 point gap. They've got a pretty big margin of error, so they should be fine. As for FaZe, they need to finish 1st and have G2 go 1-2. They can finish 2nd, but then G2 has to go 0-2. So pretty crazy stuff. All right. For NRG, They have secured a wildcard spot. They are guaranteed a top 24 spot. They will be going to Worlds no matter what. It's just a matter of if they're in the main event or if they are playing in the elimination side of things, where they play in Swiss, first to 3 wins kind of situation. They can go to the main event if Space Station finishes 4th or worse and V1 finishes 3rd or worse. They do need the 3rd team in NA to perform pretty well, because if they don't, then they lose this. So like, Energy is basically counting on this spot. This is what they want. They need the 3rd team in NA to do relatively well. But if the teams that are in the ranking that are too high, Space Station V1 perform too well, then that point difference will bump them out. So Energy is hoping that NA does good, but not too good. Because if NA does too good, it has to be like Envy. Like Envy can pop off, they're fine. If Envy goes in and goes sicko mode with G2 and FaZe, like if G2 FaZe and Envy go dominant, Energy is like, heck yeah, this is perfect. We're happy. Because they're 1,000 points ahead almost. So it doesn't matter. Even if Envy wins the whole thing and they get 801 points, it's still not enough to bypass. So it basically, like, if you're Energy, you're hoping Envy, G2, and FaZe go sicko mode. If Space Station V1 play pretty well and plays top 3, top 4, then you're in trouble. So Energy's got a pretty good chance. They should be pretty happy. Now, if Space Station finishes 4th or worse, or V1 finishes 3rd or worse, they need NA number 4 to clinch a main event. They need NA number 4 to keep this spot right here. If NA number 4 clinch a spot, that means that there's 7 guaranteed teams, and they will go. And they're happy. Plus then, with 4, the only way that it happens is if V1 and Space Station are in the finals, pretty much. If both Space Station and V1 take 3-4, say lower semifinals is Space Station versus V1, V1 wins, goes top 3, then they could both bump out Energy, and then Energy would only be wild card. So there's some pretty crazy things that could happen. So they basically need this to be the 2-3 for them to get bumped out, which is unlikely. The other side of things too is if NA clinches number 5 main event, then it doesn't matter. Because if NA clinches number 5 main event, like if NA number 5 here bumps all the way up, there's no way they don't finish top 5. If NA is like, yo, we're the greatest you've ever seen, and they're like, hey, watch us take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like tied 5, 6, then Energy is like, yeah, no matter what, we're getting allocated, because Envy can't pass us up. On to the next, Space Station. They clinch wildcard with winning a series. If Space Station wins a series, they're good. If G2 or FaZe finish with more than a win, also good. And if NA number 3 clinches main event, which again is this part. When it comes to the main event, this is where things get a little bit trickier. If they want to go to the main event, they have to bypass Energy, which is a 3rd place or better, and V1 has to finish 4th or worse, because they can't get passed up by V1. Keep that in mind. V1 can't outperform Space Station. Their points are pretty close in the standings. Less than 100 point difference. It's like, what, 69 points? Nice. So if V1 outperforms them by 1 stage, they have the point allocation to bump them up. So they need to, whatever their performance is, do a little bit better than V1, which anytime those two play, it goes to 7, gives you a heart attack. It could be fun. That could be fun to see if it's for a main event spot. That'd be very spicy. But yeah, and other than that, it's just a matter of having enough main event allocation, like we've been talking about, which is these spots here. Next, V1. V1 is basically Space Station, but 1 step harder, because they're behind by 69 points. So they clinch wildcard if they win a series. As long as V1 wins a series, they're going to the World Championship. That's what V1's hoping. Step 1, V1, win a series. You beat Endpoint, you're guaranteed in a really good spot to go top 10 or top 9 through 12. You're fine. If that doesn't happen, as long as NA gets 3 main event spots, as long as NA gets 3 spots here, so as long as they maintain this spot as well, that means that they will get 6, 3 main event, 3 wild card. And if they do that, then looking at the standings, that means top 6 get in, which they will be guaranteed to do. To guarantee a top 8 spot and go to the main event, they have to win. And NA number 3 has to do pretty well. So V1 has to win the whole thing, and they still need a little bit of help. NA's 3rd worst team has to do pretty decent. They could finish 2nd, but they need Space Station to perform worse than them. And they, again, need 3rd NA team to do pretty decent. And worst case scenario to get main event, if all of NA goes sicko mode and they are able to secure that 5th spot. So if they have 5 going to the main event, they're guaranteed top 5. no matter how points get allocated. So they need NA here to really go crazy and get 5 spots here, which again, take this into consideration. NA5 is 520 points. All these teams are going to bump up. You figure you need about 750 points. That is then looking essentially, if all of NA is guaranteed like top 8, it's likely. It's actually pretty likely. So it all depends on obviously Sam, OCE, MENA, all that kind of stuff, but it's possible. We will see. We will see. This is where it gets complicated and very, very difficult. Uphill battles for sure. For Team Envy, they can join and get wildcard guarantee if they finish first. If they win the whole thing, they're good. The other side is if NA3 clinches a main event, they're good. As long as NA maintains again here, that means they would get 6 points allocated, which they are guaranteed to be complexity, oxygen. The rest can't pass them up. So that is possible. From there, if they finish second or better and V1 finishes first, or V1 finishes O2, then they can also leapfrog V1, but they have to finish second. That's pretty tough. Am I going to London? Yes, I will be there. I leave on Tuesday, in it. They can go to the main event if they win and get help. If they win and Space Station goes O2 and V1 goes 1-2, and then they still need NA number 4 to do okay, which if that's the case, like that means they would need EU to perform even worse than they do, which I think it's pretty tough. Chances of Envy getting main event, very unlikely. They are probably going to wildcard, is what it feels like. So very likely Envy we see in the wildcard. Up next, complexity. 6 teams at Worlds. They need 7 teams at Worlds. They need NA to have 7 going, right? Because these teams can't pass them up. And the only way that happens is if they have and maintain the 4. So NA's 1 through 4 results need to be better than all these other teams below them or in comparison. So complexity is very much so hoping that NA gets 4 guaranteed main event and then 3 seeds for the wild card. As for oxygen, that but more. They need NA to have 5 main event spots so they can get the 8th invite. They get the 8th invite, then oxygen can go. That means that NA has to have 5 allocated in, just like how EU needed to have 5 allocated in for vitality, etc., like we talked about. So some pretty bonkers stuff across the board on making it for these teams if they can get it. To clarify again for everybody, I know we're doing this in the past. These matches have already begun, so some of these scenarios have probably changed by the time you're watching this. But the best thing you can do, timestamps will be in the timeline down below. You can click to whatever region you're rooting for. Go check out the team. I know we did this for every single regional, so you're going to have to skip around a little bit. But luckily, the page displays all those. But this is what it is. This is the complication that comes down to the wire in a circuit-based system. You've got point allocation, teams that are guaranteed main event spots and not. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into if they will make it to the wild card, which is 9 through 24, or if they guarantee a top 8 and make the main event and get to skip the Swiss stage. Pretty important stuff. So with that said, if you do have any additional questions on how this stuff works out, if you have any questions on how it applies, any of that stuff, a couple ways you can do it. Number 1, join my Discord. Links to that in the description, discord.gg/Lawler. They have main event live discussion conversations. There's a lot of really smart people. Direct, the statistician who we pulled this from, will also be in that Discord, and he replies every once in a while. So if you need help, that is the way to do it. Also in the description down below is a link to the document I just showed. If you want to jump ahead and go through the timestamps, or if you want to pull that document and follow along, I'm sure Direct will be updating it live from the spring major. But that kind of stuff is very helpful. Other than that, comments as always, any questions as well as anything I can do to help, let me know down below. And while you're down there, if you enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, as it helps out the video greatly, as well as myself. That's going to do it for this video. Chat, thanks for listening to everything that I just had to ramble about for a solid amount of time. This is a long one and a lot of information being covered. So we will call it for now. I wish you the best of luck to you and the team you're rooting for, as today is elimination day for the RLCS for the spring major. So this will be coming out right before those matches hit, so you can know, okay, matches start in like 2 hours. This is what I need to know. We're good to go. So that's going to do it for this video. As always, appreciate it. Thanks for the support, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.